You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another monthly movie recap. I know. It's not monthly. I know. But I've seen a good chunk of movies since the last one. I don't even remember when the fuck the last one was. But I'll start with the movies I've seen. In no particular order. I saw Brain Scan. I literally just saw it like a few seconds before starting, well, a few minutes before starting this video. Brain Scan. It's a really interesting premise. I thought that the premise to Brain Scan was really good. It's a 1994 movie about this video game that takes you in, and then you kill someone, and then it turns out you actually killed them, but then this, like, weird entity called the Trickster comes out of it. But my problem with it, like, I liked the movie. I overall liked the movie. I enjoyed my time with it. It was a fun watch. My problem is I don't think they really did with the premise what I kind of wanted. See, because, it was entertaining, and the ending was pretty entertaining. But the issue I have is the first kill the kid gets, he then immediately finds out that it's real. But then, like, he still has to use the discs to do the kills? Because first off, he doesn't want to do it anymore, but Trickster tells him, oh, you got it, there's a witness and all this stuff. But it's like Trickster's there telling him this shit. Why is Trickster making him use the discs to do the kills? Because, like, the discs, like, I thought that it was maybe putting his brain into a different body, right? And, like, taking over someone. And that way there would be no evidence. No, it's not even fucking close to that. Granted, with the ending made it a little bit better, I think, because of the way it ended. I'm like, okay, I get it now, kinda. But I don't get the discs. I don't get why the discs were necessary for the illusion in it. But anyway, with that, I think the way I would change Brain Scan, I would keep the premise very similar, but I would have it actually transplant your brain into someone else, like it puts your consciousness into someone else. You're like possessing someone and doing the killing. And then that way, you don't realize it's real, and there's no evidence to you, and then you start to realize it, and it starts to get at you. Maybe something like that, right? I think that would be a lot more interesting. But overall, I thought the movie was really good. The kid had a really cool room, and it was super fucking 90s. Like, he had this weird, like, phone thing that he talked into and told him to call the number, and it had Igor on it. But yeah, that's the first movie we talked about today. It's the latest one I've seen. Next, we'll talk about The Banshees of Inisherin, which is a movie that my friend Theron, also known as Rem, showed me. Really good movie. I went into it knowing literally nothing, and it had one of the most interesting premises I've ever fucking seen. Because it's this Irish movie that takes place on this fictional Irish island. It was actually filmed on multiple little islands near Ireland. But it takes place during the 20s, during the Irish Civil War, when it split off from the UK. Or not when it split and part of it went to the UK, you know what I mean. But with Banshees of Inisherin, the whole premise of the movie is these two longtime friends have a falling out because one of them is just bored of the others. He tells him, I don't like you anymore, you're too dull. Because he wants to, like, write music and do something productive, and he doesn't want to waste all his time chatting with his longtime friend. I didn't realize that would be the entire premise of the movie. But that's what makes it so great, because it escalates and escalates and escalates. Spoiler. I won't spoil the whole thing, but I'll spoil this. The friend, Colm, the one who wants to end the friendship, keeps getting harassed by the other one, I think his name's Podrick, trying to get him to be friends with him again. And eventually he's like, alright, every time you talk to me, I'm going to cut a finger off my hand, and I'm going to give that to you. Until either you leave me alone or I run out of fingers. And the fucking mad lad starts doing it. He just fucking chucks fingers at his door. It's a very unique movie. I very much enjoyed it. Very different movie. Next movie I guess I'll talk about will be... we'll talk briefly about There Will Be Blood. However, I actually plan on doing a full review dedicated to that movie. There Will Be Blood is a great movie. It's about a guy named Daniel Plainview, who's an oil tycoon. hardcore objectivist, narcissist, and I love him. He's such a good character. Basically, he's going to this town, trying to build up his oil company and drill, trying to kind of use shady things to give people not as much money for their land as maybe it's worth, like, you know, maybe exaggerating his purposes, lying, playing on people, stuff like that. And then there's a church that's run there that's kind of culty and weird. But Daniel Plainview is a pretty fucking good character. Like I said, full review of that one will be coming. Next up, we got Terrifier 1 and Terrifier 2. These are both modern slashers. In fact, the last one I think came out like last year or the year before, something like. It's really recent. But Terrifier 1 and 2, they feel like old slashers. I enjoyed the hell out of my time. They are super fucking gory, especially Terrifier 2. It's about a clown named Art the Clown who's kind of a mime. They call him a mime-type clown when you read about it on the Wikipedia page. He's going around killing people. You don't really know a whole lot about him. There is some supernatural stuff at the very end of the first movie, leading into the second movie, and then in the second movie there's some supernatural stuff. But the first movie, otherwise, is fairly grounded. Like, I mean, there's some stuff where people survive shit that it's like, how the hell are they still alive? But other than that, the first one was more grounded than the second. I think I actually prefer the second Terrifier movie, though, because it's more gory, it's more fun. It's so much funnier. Like, there's this sort of weird sadistic humor to it in the second one, where Art is just a fucking goofball while he's just fucking brutally ripping people apart in the most gory, horrific fucking ways. So I really like those movies. Those were really fun. We did those on Red Eye Theater on Rumble. We also did The Stepfather, 1 and 2 so far. We're still going to watch 3. I like those movies a lot. It's a very interesting premise for a slasher film. It's a guy who just wants the perfect family, and he just assumes a fake identity, finds a wife with kids, right? Finds a mother with kids, who's a single mom, and then works his way in there. But he doesn't want to wait around. He just wants to do dad stuff right out the gate. But, like, sex is like a chore for him. He doesn't give a shit about the sex. He doesn't want to have sex with the wife. That's a chore. That's just running the motions. He just wants the family life and to do dad stuff. But he doesn't want to wait and earn it. He just wants to go right to that. And if his family is not absolutely perfect, he fucking kills them and moves on to the next one. Those movies are really fun. I think that's a great premise for a slasher movie. I love it. Let's see, what other movies have I seen recently? I've seen quite a few, because it's been a while. Let me check how long it's been. So, just looked into it. It has been 6 fucking months since the last monthly recap. But another movie we've watched was Poughkeepsie Tapes. We watched that on Red Eye Theater, too. Very, very, very interesting and enjoyable indie, low-budget horror movie about a serial killer. And it's a found-footage film. That's a pretty good one. There's not much else to say about it other than you see the unique thing of a victim that he gets who ends up being brainwashed and falling in love with him, and then that's a whole big thing. That's actually a pretty big spoiler, but anyway, Poughkeepsie Tapes was an interesting one. I quite enjoyed it. Another set of movies we've seen is the Creepshow trilogy, as well as Tales from the Dark Side, although I have seen Tales from the Dark Side before. I largely forgot most of the first 2 segments, because the third segment, Lover's Vow, is easily my favorite of the 3. But with the Creepshow movies, I've quite enjoyed those. They're anthology movies that are an homage to the comics of, Tales from the Crypt and the Vault of Horror. And the Creeper is different in each of the movies, actually. He doesn't talk at all, like, out loud in the first movie. He has dialogue, but it's only in the comic panels that it shows. He has actual dialogue in the second movie. In the first movie, he kind of resembles the Crypt Keeper as it would be from the TV show, which I find interesting because I don't think that was out yet. But in the second movie, he looks more like the Crypt Keeper as he appeared in the comics. So that's an interesting dynamic. The third movie, he's barely even in it. He's a little weird animated hooded figure. And there are animated, like, wraparounds in all of them. But the third movie really kind of gets rid of the wraparounds to an extent. The first movie, I think, was really good. I think it's probably the best. It has Leslie Nielsen as a villain in it, so that was kind of interesting. The third movie is the most fun, though. I fucking love Creepshow 3. Because all the segments are good. It's definitely a different vibe than the first 2. Like, it's much more modern, because it came out in 2006, whereas the other 2 came out in, like, the 80s. But Creepshow 3, Also has characters, has this doctor character, who's like my favorite character in the whole series, because he's a just total self-centered asshole, who's apathetic towards everyone else, and is just a total dick. Like, this little girl gets cancer, and he has, like, no tact when he tells her about it. Like, she's in, like, middle school or high school. No, I think she's a junior in high school. And he just straight up tells her she has cancer with no tact. And then, the family's like, well, what do we do? And he's like, well, has she been to her senior prom? And they're like, no, she's a junior. And he's like, well, you might want to get on that. Like, he's a total dick, and he just takes a bunch of pills and drinks a bunch of alcohol, and he, like, drops this hot dog on the ground, and it gets covered in, like, dirt and rocks and shit, and this homeless guy, and he gives it to this homeless guy, and the homeless guy eats it and, like, chokes to death, and then, like, starts haunting him. But the interesting thing with Creepshow 3 is the segments are all connected, like, it's all one narrative, sort of, well, multiple narratives that are coexisting at the same time, whereas the first two movies were just straight-up anthologies. I liked all of the segments in the first movie. I liked all of the segments in the third movie. However, Creepshow 2, the first segment, was a little lackluster. The ending of it was a little bit better than the beginning of it, but honestly, I think it was the weakest of the bunch. But the Creepshow movies were really fun. I quite enjoyed them. Let's see. Other than the Creepshow movies, I have also seen... Is that all of them? That might be all of them. I'm scrolling. Oh, Jew on the Grudge! I saw Jew on the Grudge. That's the original Japanese version of The Grudge, if you don't know. It was much better than the American version. It still had a lot of the same plot points, but one key distinction is that it actually had multiple points of view, rather than all just being one girl being affected by it, so I think that added to it considerably. Other than that, we watched Freddy Got Fingered, which is one of Corbin's favorite comedies. A lot of people don't like that movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I didn't like it probably as much as Corbin did. It's a fucking retarded-ass movie, but it's fun. That's why you watch it. Like, it's one of the stupidest comedies I've ever seen. And it's very clearly intentionally so. It's Tom Green. What do you expect? Other than that, I have seen... Is that all of them? Let's see. Like I said, it's been a fat minute, so I'm just checking back through all the previous Red Eye Theaters. Obviously, I've rewatched a bunch of stuff, because, you know, that's me, that's what I do. That's all the ones I can think of right now. Let me pause the recording again for just a second. Alright, I just remembered another one. I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I did not care for it. I thought it had some elements I liked, but overall, I did not like it. But that's all the ones I can think of that I've seen. I bought No Holds Barred, so I plan on watching... Oh, you know what? I watched Pokemon, the movie 3 again. Which I have seen before as a kid a long time ago. I forgot many of the details of it. I remembered the little girl, I remembered Entei, but I didn't remember a lot of the other stuff. And I remembered the unknown, but I didn't remember the actual substance other than that. But I really like that movie. I like the Pokemon movies. I've been on a Pokemon binge here and there. I've been binging little things here and there. But anyway, I think that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this monthly movie recap. And I'll see you... hopefully in sooner than 6 months with another one. Toodles.
Subscribe, feed it to Red Eye.